Viktor Gyokeres has only played 7 Premier League games, but he's already dividing opinion amongst Arsenal fans and rival fans. In today's video, we will be looking into Viktor Gyokeres' Arsenal career, seeing what he has done well so far, and whether there is room for improvement or the critics are even right. But before I do begin, if you are new here, please do hit the subscribe, and if you do enjoy the video, hit the like as well. But let's get on with it. It is only fair that we do start with the positives in Viktor Gyokeres' game, and I feel as though sort of his hold-up play, especially against Newcastle, we'll see more examples against them because I think it was at his best, has improved. Here he is receiving the ball, and obviously, you know, you've got the Newcastle United defender. I think in this one, it is Malik Thiaw. We know how physical it can be at St. James's Park. He's had such tricky games, you know, away at Liverpool, away at Old Trafford, away Newcastle United. It doesn't get tougher than that. And of course, our bogey team, Fulham, next. But I like the way he receives the ball here. And the use of his body to free himself is really intelligent. Using that right foot, he turns away, and he creates this little bit of space here, which is absolutely what you want to be seeing from your centre forward. Having the ability to create the separation. Here he is. You can see it. The space obviously is here, but it's about Viktor Gyokeres turning so he can enter that space. And he does that really, really well. And this is what Viktor Gyokeres is going to give you. He's that sort of player, that centre forward who's like a fighter. That's his profile for me. He's a fighter. He's a lost cause centre forward in terms of you chuck a ball up there, he's going to try his best to really wrestle his way. There's not going to be much technique about it. There's going to be a lot of use of his body and a lot of, you know, use of his frame to try and keep and collect that ball. And in this instance, it was really good. He creates the space like I showed you. And then obviously there's that pass into Saka, who's advancing into this space. But you can already see he's got those 3 Newcastle United players in and around him, occupying him. And when you are as a centre forward, he's got that sort of, I don't really want to call it gravity, but he almost makes you feel as a midfielder or a defender that you've got to go and close him down. And before they do, he's already released that ball into Bukayo Saka, as we now advance and see it. And Bukayo Saka, obviously, in this position, this was a chance where, you know, Leandro Trossard hits the post. He does play it across to Declan Rice, and Declan Rice goes forward. But you can already see, look how many players are out of the game from Gyokeres. 1, 2, 3. Try that again. 3 players are out the game from Gyokeres using his body really well and releasing it. And one thing which you're going to hear me say a lot during this video is minimal impactful touches. Even when I talk about his improvements, even when I talk about when he does something well, Gyokeres, it's really strange, but from when seeing him and when he's at his best, he can't have more than 3 touches of the ball outside the box. It's as simple as that. We must limit his touches outside the box to 3 maximum, because you'll see with the examples, after he has 3 touches, his control, his technique, his concentration, it goes off and falls off a cliff. But anyway, let's continue with the positives. And again, this is what I'm saying, minimal touches. The ball gets fired straight into Gyokeres. He's in space, but because he's in space, he's allowed and he feels as though he can release it quickly. And then he's off. He's spinning in behind, as I'll now show you. But this is where it's best. When Gyokeres has minimal touches where he can just flick it on, keep the ball moving, he's really impactful because we know how quick he is. He's going to run into this space. That's a big space to run into. You know, that is a space you want to see your centre forward run into. And here is Bukayo Saka on the ball here. Gyokeres, if he sees a free player, his first instinct is to get it to that free player. He does not want to hold the ball for too long. And it's only when he has to do it. And then when he has to do it, he's not comfortable doing it. It's quite simple, you know. But every time I felt as though there was an option for him, a simple pass on, he'd be really effective at holding the ball, then releasing it within those 3 touches. And here we see Gyokeres is making the right run into that space there, which you want your centre forward to go into. Then it's Saka attacking the wide areas. So his intentions when he has minimal touches is very, very, very good. Here again, we move on to another example. Here he is fighting for the possession up against Newcastle United, using his body against Tonali. And again, it's where he has less than 3 touches. So that ball is bounced and hit his body. So that's 1. Now, as we're seeing this action, that's 2. And with that number 2, he's already thinking about Saka and his run into this space. And he's thinking, okay, let me release it to Saka now. I don't want to hold this ball too much. Let me release it as quickly as possible to Saka. And that's what he does. He releases it to Saka, as now we're seeing the second touch. Then the third touch. It's Saka. It's away. And again, look at the intention from him to attack this space. That's what I like about Gyökeres, in the sense that he's alive. His speed in those first few yards is really, really good. Because you can see from this situation where Saka is there and, you know, he's up against physically, I think that's Livramento. Look how quickly he gets up to speed with play. This is what I mean when he's a fighter, he's a hustler, he's a shuttle centre forward, in terms of he's going to make sure he can get involved in the play. He may not be as strong as many people think, but he's going to try and use his body in the best way as possible to help in the attacks, to link the play. And that's a real positive for Arsenal. And obviously this attack didn't come to anything, but it all starts again from Gyökeres linking the play really, really nicely. Here again is another example, and where I can show you the pros and cons of Gyökeres. I know, I'm sorry, it's not the clearest of images, but he is in control of this ball. So at this moment in time, he's already had 2 touches of the ball. Now he's just had his 3rd touch. And now, there's the ball. It's bubbling up now. Not the ball, sorry. That's his foot. There's the ball, sorry. 3rd touch here. And this is where sort of the defender, I think it is Trippier perhaps, gets back and he gets the possession from Gyökeres. And this is what I mean. As he's now above those 3 touches, he loses possession of the ball. Look at his body. He's not coordinated and he loses momentum. And this is the problem when you have Gyökeres having more than 3 touches outside the box. Very effective, very impactful when he has below those 3 touches. But any more than that, and he starts to lose that concentration, his body starts to feel a bit weird, and he loses the ball. But the thing is with Gyökeres, he's such a fighter and such a sort of shuttle centre forward is, he goes and bites back to win that ball. Look how congested it is. He wants to make it uncomfortable. He wants to make it messy. He thrives off chaos. So that's another thing you're going to hear me say. Gyökeres, both inside and outside the box, thrives from chaos. And in this situation, he does play the ball out wide to Bukayo Saka. From the sort of chaos that was created from him pressing, trying to win that ball. And then you're asking Saka, can you go on your outside? Can you go on your inside? It's really, really good. So Gyökeres, from over touching the ball by having more than 3 touches, which I've already said is not good for him in terms of the player he is, he's hustling, he's shuttling, he's winning that ball back to release it into Saka. So we've seen both the pros and the cons of Gyökeres in one there. Let's move on to another example. This is against Nottingham Forest. And again, he's about to take this ball down, and that's going to be his first touch. This is into the channel, and into the channel, Gyökeres is really, really good. So this is the ball. There is Gyökeres. So he takes that ball down. 1. This is now his 2nd touch, which he's now put himself in a position where he can find a pass into Merino. He can play it back to Madueke, or in the frame coming along is Eberechi Eze. So again, 2nd touch. Now let's move it on again. He's about to make his 3rd touch, which is where he's releasing the ball, where he has the space to do so. That's where he's at his best. Minimal touches, impactful. And look at the quality of ball that Viktor Gyokeres is about to play into Eberechi Eze. Look at it. It allows Eze to take it down and go positive action straight away. And it's all because he's had a maximum of 3 touches where he's effective. This is a player who's used to transitional football, obviously at Sporting, and being the best in those situations. So the less touches he has to work his sort of stuff, keep the ball, whether that's taking on a shot, the better for him. So what I'm sort of getting here as well, I probably won't go into more depth about his shots and his actions inside the box, but Gyökeres needs as little amount of touches before he can release a shot. If he's in a position where he feels like he needs to take more touches, he's not that good. It's as simple as that. He's not that effective. So keep his touches to a minimal, in around goal, outside the box. You're going to have a very effective sort of centre forward. Here again, this one was against Leeds United. So in this situation, he had 1, 2, 3, and I think the 4th touch he had, or the 5th touch he had, was then the shot on goal. You know, so this is what I mean. More than that, more than 3. I know I've been saying the 3 rule. This situation, in the goal, it was less. in terms of the amount of touches he had. And this is quite rare for him to be so effective from those touches. But we can move this example to another example against Manchester City. Not against Manchester City, against Newcastle, sorry. This is where he had more than 3 touches. And Malik Thiaw, here is Gyökeres. This is a wonderful position to be in. But because he had more than 3 touches, more than 3 actions to think about releasing anything, a pass or a shot. Look, Ronaldo shots it, he loses it, and it's gone. It's as simple as that. Gyökeres needs to have minimal touches. He genuinely does, to be as impactful and effective as possible. Look at all the goals he's scored. It's where he's almost been forced to take one shot quickly. Except the Leeds, where that's an anomaly in terms of you taking 5-6 touches and score. That's very rare for Gyökeres to have those many touches and still be effective and in control of the ball and score a goal. See, that's why we haven't seen that sort of Leeds goal enough, or have him take more shots on from positions like that, because he's been given the opportunity in those positions and he hasn't been effective. This one in his first game, I know it's harsh against Manchester United, but you can see it. He's had around 7 touches before he's got into around the box, and you can see he loses his footing. It's as simple as that. He loses his footing, and the chance and the space that was initially there is gone. Look how many Manchester United players around him. From here, where he's got space to go into, he makes it into this uncomfortable situation for himself. So, is it an Arsenal players thing? Can we release the balls a bit later? A split second? Can we put more pace on the ball so he doesn't have that much time? Can we get around him quicker? These are the questions you've got to ask to make him more effective than he is currently in those spaces. Here against Manchester City, again, he receives this ball in the channel. Look, this is what I mean when I say, Arsenal are making things happen for Gyökeres. They're giving him the ball in really effective positions. But because we're not getting enough bodies around him, or the pass isn't allowing him to take minimal touches before a shot, it's not leading to anything. And in this scenario, he does receive it. That's 1 touch, 2 touch. And by his 3rd touch, he's playing it back to Madueke, who's in and around him. That's what the Arsenal... It's almost got to be a thing like alarm bells ringing. Once Gyökeres takes that 3rd touch, he needs to have someone to release the ball to. And it may sound silly, but there's certain players who need these sort of conditions. And to get the best out of him, I generally think this is the case. And finally, I want to talk about something which has been talked about by a lot of tacticos and a lot of people in and around football in terms of Gyökeres and pinning centre-halves and occupying centre-halves, leaving space for Saka and Eze. Firstly, I'm not a fan that is the sort of conclusions we're coming up to, because any sort of forward could do that. We may as well have got Calvert-Lewin on a free if we're praising our centre forward for pinning the centre halves. But what I will say is, him occupying the higher positions in terms of not leaving the centre forward area is leaving space for the likes of Eze and Saka. It means that they're going to be able to venture into areas, because Gyökeres is always going to be in the centre forward position. The centre backs are always going to have to worry about someone right up against their back line. And obviously, when that's the case, he's going to occupy them. He's going to create that space for attacking players, which is great. It generally is great. But when I think about a 70 million euro centre forward, do I want to be coming out of games saying that? No, we've got to have these standards, guys, in terms of the centre forwards. And this is what I also feel, I don't know. Do you want your centre forward to be coming out of games and being like, he had a really tough battle with Mavropanos. He had a really tough battle with De Ligt. He had a really strong battle with Ruben Diaz. No, because all the best centre forwards we see in Europe, even the ones that like to play on the last line, they'll drop in. They'll feel the game. They'll try and facilitate to some degree. And against Newcastle, we saw that side of Gyökeres to facilitate. And it was really effective. One of his best games for Arsenal. And he wasn't directly up against the centre-forwards, centre-backs every single time to have that good game. But here, again, this is a common screenshot that's been showing Gyökeres occupying the 2 centre-halves so that the space can be had for Saka. And I think this was in the game against Atletico Bilbao. And everyone's been showing this sort of screenshot, which is great. It gives the space to Saka. But for how long are centre-halves gonna be occupied with Gyökeres when they realise, oh, okay, this guy isn't doing much? You've got to do different variants of movement in a game to really worry your opposition. And here, another example against West Ham. This screenshot has been shown. And this is a really nice example, to be fair, of Gyökeres attacking that front stick area, attacking that middle of the goal area, occupying those 2 centre-halves. They're thinking about his movement. And this is where I do agree in the sense that, having him in there is something new, because would Havertz ordinarily always make that movement? No. But he's there. He's occupying those spaces. But the thing is with me, I don't want to sort of say congratulations for that, because the centre forward should be doing that when we're in and around the box. So for me, I do think he's quite static in the box as well. That's something that I've sort of felt like. I know he occupies the centre halves, but he doesn't have the strength or the zone dominance to get those centre halves off him. And that's a real problem for me. Can he develop it? Maybe. Do I also think his rhythm and his understanding and his timing against the other Arsenal players is 1 second slower? Yes, I do feel like when we create actions, when we put balls into the box, he feels 1 second away. Can that be developed with more rhythm and more game time, more understanding? Oh, of course, he's only 7 games in. But if it doesn't happen, you start to worry, is he at the level of these players? But for now, this is fine. Look at him in this box here, occupying those centre halves. It's great. But can you free yourself of them? That's my biggest question for him. And people have been talking about maybe him returning to less of a top-heavy build. And I'm not a specialist. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a scientist, or whatever you want to call it these days in football. But I do feel like his build at Coventry is best suited to English football, because I feel as though he's more in balance. I feel as though he's off balance. His timing is off. Having that build isn't going to get him any worse at hold-up play or any better at hold-up play. Lean build, skinny build. I feel as though he'll be able to get shots off quicker and really work the goalkeeper. Like I said, I'm not a specialist. I'm not saying I'm the best in the world at knowing the build that Gyökeres needs to have. But I think for the most effective sort of version of him, I feel like if he has a build in which can allow him to have more balance and get shots off quickly, it's going to be really, really good for him. But here he is here, again, occupying this 2 centre halves really, really nicely. And he does create that space for Eze. There's no doubt about it. But I just want more than that. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts. I've talked about positives in Viktor Gyokeres in terms of his hold-up play against Newcastle. Really, really nice. In terms of when he has less than 4-3 touches, effective, impactful, and his movements after releasing a pass, really, really good. I've talked about him occupying those spaces and Arsenal actually playing those balls into the channels for him to work with. Him not making the most of them now, but is that Arsenal not getting bodies around him quick enough so on that third touch he can release it to somebody? That's something we could probably think about. I've talked a bit about his occupying centre halves. It's good. It's a positive. It's great. But is that what we want to be seeing from our centre forward as the main positive? No. Can he get stronger in those duels? Can he shrug off centre halves in the games where we're going to occupy the opposition's box? Those are the questions we've got to ask ourselves. And would I say he's a horrid start from Gyökeres? No. 3 goals in 10 games. Nice. He's scoring goals. But is the concerns valid? I think they can only be valid once we see if the rhythm, the timing, because I think a lot of the things are, it feels like he's 1 or 2 seconds slower than everyone else. And what life suggests is the more you get used to the people around you, you're going to adjust to their speed. But if that adjustment to the speed doesn't happen, you've then got to question, is his peak just going to be 1 or 2 seconds behind everyone else? And that's where you can really, really worry. But anyway, that's it for now. Let me know your thoughts on Viktor Gyokeres so far. But until next time, peace.